Tell the people exactly who you are right now, because we're gonna get into other stuff, but tell them who you are right now, because I don't want to do you a disservice. Go ahead and tell us.
It is all good. First of all, thank you. This feels so good. 2 years and we are
2 years.
reunited.
Can you believe
Feels so
it? We
good.
are in season 3, and I was just
Yes.
telling you in the backstage how, oh my God, how impressed and how much you've grown as an individual, and then we're gonna get into this TikTok. I call it TikTok Chronicles, but
Girl.
it's called Addicted to Monsters, and I'm just. Whew, I know you probably see me all over your comments because I have been listening, watching you. And one thing that
Man.
I do is, if you ever grace this platform, I am a fan for life. I don't just let anybody on
Same.
here just to let them on here. I am a fan for life. So I just want to put that out there. But this is Nicole D. Lawson, y'all. She's just an amazing person in general. And I have personally connected with you. Honey, you have changed my life. You've made an impact in my life. So I want everybody to be excited, just as excited as I am. Go ahead. You have the floor. Oh,
I
okay,
forgot to
gotcha.
unmute myself. Okay, there we go. I forgot to unmute myself. There we go. Um, I feel the same way. I definitely echo the sentiment. Um,
Thank you.
I it's like if we are divinely aligned and we come together for the same purpose, I'm also a
Mhm.
fan for life. And so you're one of the first people that I connected with when I decided to make this radical change in my life and go
Mhm.
forward in the direction that I knew that my soul has been saying for a long time. This is where you need to go. You're one
Mhm.
of the first persons that I connected with,
Mhm.
and then I just started to just like everything about your vision and your mission has just it's helped me to heal. It's
Amen.
even having the group that has such a powerful title. They took my choice away.
Mhm.
Even that. It was needed, and that safe space and those discussions are needed because something that this society still tries to do to victims is to disempower you by having you try to blame yourself.
Come on, man.
Um, so it's
Mhm.
I thank you. I thank you from
Thank
the
you.
bottom of my heart for holding space. And for doing something that can be very hard for a lot of people who were victims to do, which is to be
Yes.
able to kind of minister out of that space and give what you need. And it's
Mhm.
when you're brave enough and courageous enough to do that, you're giving it to yourself too.
Mhm. For
So
sure,
thank you.
because I still
So
learn
mhm.
from our survivors. I learn every day, and their stories may be similar to mine, especially yours. Like we have so many similarities. It's like,
Man.
are we sisters? Did we were we raised in the same household? Like, I'm being so for real. I'm like, I just there's no
Yeah.
way I could have. Then you touch the topics of parent accountability, so there's just no way I couldn't have you back on, especially for this
God.
specific topic. But I'm sorry,
And it
I keep
was
interrupting.
again, it's all and it was like when I tell you just it's on time. This is the time for that. We are in this like what a time to be alive. Because
Yeah.
we're in and I thought it was just across our nation, but this is international. This is a worldwide reckoning, awakening for
Hmm.
women and reckoning that we're having right now as it pertains to and oh my God, during Women's History Month too, to
Right.
have these conversations.
Come on.
What a time to be alive.
Yes.
Okay. It is time for us to get recompense for us, for
Hmm.
our aunts, our grandmothers, all of our foremothers who could not
Yeah.
speak. We're
Yeah.
speaking for them too. We are. And we're
That's
healing. We're
right.
healing that past trauma, the past trauma, our trauma, and we're healing the future as well for our sons and our daughters. I speak for myself and my daughters. I always speak for women first because we're the ones
Hmm.
that create life. And so,
Hmm.
you know, we've got to hold people accountable. We have got to hold people accountable to make our families whole, and to make these
Hmm.
relationships whole because they're not. And we've been gaslit into being these pick and these mammies and coddling people and
Hmm.
allowing all this bad behavior and just chalking it off to boys will be boys and all that type of mess. But that
No
time's up,
more.
and okay,
It is
none,
no
none,
more. Mm-mm.
none.
Because
Yep.
I was a single mom, and I continue to raise. I just I it's
Mm-hmm.
never you never stop, right? So I have 3 young men that I've raised, my sons. I have 4, but one's still, one's 11. But I have to hold myself accountable, even as a single mom, to make sure that I'm raising, my boys correctly. Even though they may lack fatherhood, I did not go without making sure that there was some sort of male presence, whether I
Mm-hmm.
partnered up with the kids, with the teachers or the coaches at the school. You know what I mean? I think it's very important that we are making all the strides that we can to, you know, train up
Mm-hmm.
these children in the way that they should go. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
that they are pillars in the community, things like that. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm supposed to be saying who I am. Who am I?
yeah.
My name is Nicole Lawson, aka Nicolyboo. Check one, check two. I sing, I speak, and I write transformative truth. Period.
Mm,
That sums it up. I am a survivor of narcissistic parental abuse. I am a survivor of sexual abuse and trauma. And the majority of my life, um, unfortunately, it was I suffered from a lot of those things, and I
mhm,
and I found it very difficult for me to find my voice and stand in my own truth and power.
mm,
And it got to a point to where I decided I'm not going to continue to be okay with being a victim of circumstance and being
that's right.
also beat up for it. Okay, I get to choose my life, and I get to choose how I want it to be for me and my children, and I did
Mm,
that. And I've been standing firm, standing on business, like these young people say. Um, and
mhm,
also really using my voice even if I'm on the stage singing. It is my personal mission that no matter how I'm in front of people, that when I'm in front of people, that you are getting liberation, freedom, empowerment from me.
mhm,
And I have a heart for doing that for my fellow women and girls all across the world. I also have a son. My youngest child is a son, and I make it my personal mission because his father chose not to be a father.
mm,
First of all, I don't hide the truth about anything. That doesn't mean you have to bash anybody. I just tell the truth. That's it. I speak
that's
to the
it.
facts. My children, I try to empower them with the truth, as our very first therapist taught me to do, because children need to be empowered with the truth. They need to be educated on the ups and downs, the good and bad in life, and they need to understand the value in their choices, good and bad and everything else. So I talk to my son on a regular basis, and I show
Mm,
him these are examples of men that I don't want you to be like. These are examples of men that
mm,
are worthy of you following. And I have hard conversations with him on a regular basis about um, what it is to be a man, what it is to be a woman, what it is to coexist with the other sexes. We had a conversation today. He got very upset with one of his sisters, and Gen Alpha. It seems like a lot of them, especially in these richer areas, they feel really free to say things that we couldn't say in front of adults growing up. It's very
mm,
different now. And so
yeah.
he called her a name, and I'm like, wait, okay, let's talk about this, sir. I said, if one of your little boyfriends, or little boys, or whatever, if they said this to me or your sister, what do you think they would deserve? And he said, to get punched. I said, okay, that's what you think. So what do you think you deserve for saying that to your sister? So we had to talk about it. And I'm like, before you get ready to say anything to your sister that's cross, or a little girl in your classroom, you need to remember that is also someone's sister. That's also someone's mother, cousin. You need
Right.
to think about it. And it's not that casual. Like, everything has meaning. You need to stop and go deep and really think about the things that you say, and don't take anything lightly. Everything has a vibration behind it, has power behind it. And we have those hard conversations. He's 8 years old, but
Mhm.
you got to do it now. You have
You
to do
got
it
to do
now.
it now. Right. So the whole startup is, you need to be training them in the way that they should go. So, so it starts early. It starts,
Mhm.
once you took a perfect opportunity to sit down, have a conversation. And so there was understanding. So, first
Mhm.
of all, that's all about parent accountability.
Yes.
That's all
Yes.
right in the lines of parent accountability. Like, can you imagine when we had our first child, how how impactful that would have been from the start, from the root? And you said in one of your episodes on TikTok that you've been sharing on, it's called Addicted to Monsters. First of all, that resonated right away to me when I came
Yeah.
across your page, and you start to share your life story on there. And part of one of those episodes, you had mentioned how you had a very like you had a very serious conversations about how your daughter viewed how you are a parent, like after her, when she
Mm-hmm.
was when she was
That's
you, she got a
right.
different version of parenting from you as opposed
Mm-hmm.
to what she sees her siblings, because
Yeah.
when you have your
Yeah.
first child, you make all the mistakes, you know
Ooh.
typically you start raising them the way that you're being raised, and that was something that
Yep.
you had
It's true.
shared. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. How hard was it to hear the hard truths about how she felt about you? And a two-part question: how well did you receive it?
By the time we had that conversation, I think I had the privilege of being ready for it. I'll say that.
Hmm.
And that was a privilege that I was ready for it. Um, Another privilege for me, I must say, is that my oldest daughter she's an empath, and she's always been very incredibly empathetic and just very emotionally and spiritually in tune with people. This is a God-given gift, which is why she's in college right now for psychology. She wants to be a therapist. But,
Wonderful.
God gave me the gift of her being my first child, and I'm so grateful for that.
Mm,
Although I don't take it lightly, and I
mhm.
still had to hold myself accountable, because it's not fair to say, "Oh, kids are resilient; they can deal with anything." That's bullshit, girl. I don't know what I can say, so let me stop myself there. I'm gonna say that is bull
I'm gonna
crap.
let you. I'm
That
gonna
is
let you be
bull.
free.
That is bull crap.
Okay.
But had she said these things to me,
Mhm.
I would say 10 years ago, I don't think I would have had the capacity. Oh my goodness, girl, look at you. So Maddie, my artist baby, my
Yeah.
10-year-old, you can say hi.
Hi.
She's shaking. She knew that I was getting ready. As a matter of fact, she did my makeup for this. And she put my
Okay.
wig
And
on.
period.
That's a whole nother
Beautiful.
conversation about, your kids being so invested in you because of how invested you are in them, and it being so just organic. But I asked her if she would get me some sherbet and make me a sherbet float. And she brought me this. This is
Okay.
my
Well, I
artist
want
baby.
some.
I'm like, I'm like, oh,
That
okay,
looks
thank
amazing.
you. It's just, having children that want to do things like this. um I really didn't imagine life being like this. So let me go back to
Mm.
Michaela, my oldest. Had she Thank you, baby. Mwah. Had she said something to had like 10 years ago, I would not have had the capacity to receive it. I
Mhm.
think I would have immediately gaslit her. I would have
Mm.
immediately what's the word? There's another word besides gaslight, when a person just completely invalid. I would have
Invalidate.
immediately invalidated everything she said and gaslit her and did that punk ass Uno reverse on her.
Mhm.
Which is what my parents have always done to me, even to this day. If they had the opportunity, they would still do it.
Mhm.
When I would have given her all that I knew and all that I got, and I would
Mhm.
not have had the capacity to do anything more because I didn't have it in me. So, I would have just been like, oh, it's traumatic for you to have me as a mother. Oh, well, it's traumatic for me to have you as a child, which is literally to this day what something that my father would still say to me about me being his child. So I am grateful that she never even, and maybe she was afraid to, but she never even brought it up until recently and over the past couple of years. And she expressed, her anger. I still wish, and we talked about her finding her voice, and I had to apologize to her. And I'm like, you're probably so kind of shy and still in your shell because of the way that you were raised by me, and that version of the mother that you had versus the way, the mother that your siblings have. And we had to talk about that. And I had to acknowledge, I had to listen. Some of it was still very hard to hear, because anytime you have that mirror put up to you and you have to see the ugly part of you, even if it's still not there, that's hard. That's very hard, and you feel ashamed. And I still struggle with feeling ashamed. It never got so bad to where I ever beat her, but that still doesn't make it good either. It wasn't good. Some of the ways that I would go off on her, and it was all out of ego. It was out of ego and anger. Um, and I was just giving her what I had. That's all that I had in me a lot of times. I think, looking back, and this is something that I share with her, I gave her my entire name. My name at the time was Nicole Denise McClish. I named her Michaela Nicole Denise McClish. So I'm like, she's literally my mini me, and she just always looked just like me and everything else. So all that I knew about motherhood, I told her was, I got married at 19, and I was like, these are not excuses. I don't think that it's not fair to call it this, but these are reasons. But I will not allow them to be excuses. But I do want you to understand everything. So we talked about it, and I told her, what I thought motherhood was that you were a little version of me. So when you were a baby and a toddler, it was perfect. But then you started becoming your own person, having the ability to say no and try to be your own person. And the way that I looked at it and took it was like, how dare you? You're supposed to just be a reflection of me and everything about me. And that was so egoic, and it was wrong. I mean, I look at the version of a mother that I was with her at times, especially when she got closer to her like preteen years. And it's like, damn, I was a monster with you. I was so controlling. And I thought that I was being a good mother by trying to be controlling and shut up and you don't talk back to me and all that. And I told her that I started to look at myself and look at the dynamics in our home. And I started to become ashamed of myself, and I forced myself to start to become better, because it's like, wait a minute, I'm repeating a pattern here. Why would I want to put my children through what I went through? Like, I hated it and I still hate it. So why would I make them go through this too? Um, so it was hard, because I knew that if I did that, I was going to have to admit that I was wrong. I was also going to have to be willing to, like, okay, uh-oh. Are you
No,
muted?
no, I'm
Oh,
agreeing
okay,
with
okay.
you. I'm like,
Oh,
right.
yeah. I would also have to be okay with, and I was very afraid of this. I knew that if I started changing, everything and everyone around me would have to change too. And I would get a lot of backlash from people who would get angry with me for deciding to be something different, because then I'm also telling them that they're wrong. So it's like, I went back and forth with that a lot. And it's like, if I decide to make this radical change, I have to be okay with being alone. And that was very scary too. We talked about all these things, and we still talk about it from time to time. And there's been a lot of tears. I think more so not in front of each other, because we're both kind of the same when it comes to that. We don't like, and she would talk about it with her friends or her boyfriend, and she has her own therapist. And then she'd come back and tell me, like, for the past couple of days, all I could do was cry. I just had to let so much out. Um, I feel like we've had to go through this kind of healing journey together. Um, and it has not been easy, but on the other side of it, the relief and to have
Come
a
on.
have an adult child who actually wants to be a part of my life. She wants to be my friend. She like wants to tell me stuff about her life, instead of a child who just, I can't wait to get the hell away from you. And
Hmm.
and I still felt like when she graduates college, when she graduates and goes to college, I'm like, this girl's gonna go across the country and just want, and I kind of felt like I deserve it. I deserve it. Although I've done all this work in the past couple of years of her life and things have gotten better, that doesn't erase so the big part of her life where I, was mean a lot, and she saw me be so emotionally unregulated and everything else. So it's like, wow, I have an adult child who wants to be a part of my life, who wants me to be a part of her. She still wants me to be her mom. She also wants me to be her friend. I'm really, really grateful. I'm really, really humbled. Like, try not to cry about this now, because
Right.
it's very different than me. Like, if when I graduated high school, if I could have had a U-Haul on the other side of that stage, I don't know where the hell I was going, but I was going there fast. I
Wow.
just wanted to be away, just away.
Well, I just wanted the viewers to know that portion of your journey with, the healing journey that it took. It took you, first of all, let's go back. It took you to have to actually do the groundwork to rebuild that relationship, because it had been, it had some walls. It had some, restraints. And so that in itself is, I don't know. I think that's the hardest thing for any parent, to be able to, come to yourself and realize, you were not a very good
Whew.
parent. You know, when I went through, not only did, I have
Mhm.
a firstborn, and, I also probably severed the relationship, at one point, and it's still a work in progress,
Mhm.
and then when
Yeah.
I went through the traumatic experience that I had with my ex-husband, how it affected the
Mm.
children all differently, how it was affecting
Mm.
me differently, like, you know I had I'm in my middle age 30s, dealing with this. And I had to go back and address the little girl in me. I never addressed all the little traumatic experiences that I had growing up,
Mm-hmm.
due to the way that I was parented, due to the way how I wasn't rehabilitated with all the
Mm.
sexual abuse that I received by two different people, all either a family member or whether it was the assistant pastor. Like, I never got rehabilitated on those things. And then, to not have my father,
Woo! The
talk to
pastor.
me. Yes. To not have my father talk to me during my pregnancy. I was only 14, when I got pregnant, but not really talking about why it happened, how it happened, what accountability did they even have, the concern was, do I now have to resign from being a pastor now that you're pregnant? Like, those kinds of things, not realizing that these are all little traumatic things that are happening and how it would shape the way that I saw myself. I even hated my beauty at one point. I didn't want people to look at me like that because I was so, I was
Ooh,
sexually
girl.
abused. I was
Been there.
wearing, I was even struggling with my sexuality. Let's just keep it 100. And so, I didn't want to be looked at. I didn't want to. I wore baggy clothes. I tried to dress like a dude. Like, I did all of these things. And looking at my life now, you would have never thought I would have went through something like that. But it's it's unfortunate that we have
Mm-hmm.
these um shape shifting experiences, and then we
Right.
we trickle them right into when we're having family, and so it takes
Ooh.
our children to be bold enough to say, you're a narcissist, you were a narcissist to me, and then to have to hear the hard truths of that, and be in a position to actually listen. I'm just like you. I had to be in a position to receive that, you know now that I
Yeah.
done had the therapy, dealing with that family trauma, now that I've addressed the little girl in me, now that I realize, oh my God, all of the eye awakening moments of realizing how terrible I was to the children, because I was affected, because I was hurting, I was just bleeding all over them. And so I had
Mm-hmm.
to go back and fix it. So again, going back to parent accountability, it's not something that you're just going to take up and be able to do in a one-step program. No, it's a
No.
life changing. You have to change yourself. That takes a
Yes, you do.
that takes a journey, and then trying to bridge, the gaps that you've had, and all the difficulties that you made it for them, and how
Mm-hmm.
you might have. Oh my God, what's that scripture in the Bible where it says, don't it talks about the child honoring and their mother and
Oh,
father, but
yes, and provoke them to. Mm-hmm.
don't but don't
Yeah.
get them upset, or
Mm-hmm.
vex them to a point where they have to for them to not disrespect you. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I just feel like, um how you know what let's ask this: how important to me therapy was very important to me. So how it sounds like it was effective to you, but for our viewers,
Absolutely.
how important do you think therapy really is, and how do you go about the kind of therapy that you actually need,
Right.
to bridge these
God,
gaps?
there's so many things to dive into. So many things. Whew, we breaking chains tonight, girl.
Let's do it.
Yes. Therapy. Okay, if you have skin tones of the African diaspora, I'm gonna need you to
I do.
listen. I'm gonna need y'all to listen to this. Okay?
Mhm.
How dare you go to the doctor once a year to check up on your body? You go
Okay.
to the gynecologist to check up on your,
That's right.
your reproductive healing and your reproductive system. You go to a dentist once or twice a year. How
Mhm.
dare you ignore your brain, which is the epicenter of your entire body? I don't understand this black folk in this church thing that
Mhm.
says you don't need no therapist, all you need is the Holy Ghost. And go get your mind right. How
Get
you
it
gonna go to the
right.
doctor to deal with every other part of your body, but not the brain, which the
Come on.
brain regulates every other part of your body, but you
It
don't want
does.
to go see a freaking doctor about your mind. Like, you go to church to deal with your spirit. Well, guess what? Your body is still alive. You got to deal with this too.
That's right.
Go see a freaking therapist.
That's
Even
right.
if you, and the ones who think they don't need it, you the one that need it the most. The rest of
The
us be
most.
in therapy dealing with y'all y'all mother suckers, because you won't go to therapy. So we got to go to
Yes.
therapy to deal with you.
Come on.
Woo!
Very true.
Kick your
I,
butts.
I won't ever deal. So okay, let me just real quick and put this in here.
Take
I
that to your room.
recently had to go. I did like 8 weeks of therapy, and it was because I'm having some kid issues. My granddaughter, I love her so much, but some things we need to. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like therapy was a necessity. And
It
so
is.
the because of everything that has been going on, they had looked to me and says, "You know what? Would you want some therapy, going through, supporting your granddaughter and things like that?" And I said, "You know what? I would take it." So my granddaughter asked me, "When was the last time you did therapy?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm finished with therapy." And she goes, "You finished with therapy?" I was like, "Yeah, it was just yeah, yeah, because I needed a refresher. You know what I mean? I needed some accountability." She's just like, "Well, did you like him? Because it was a male therapist." I was like, "No." I didn't like him, but he made me, accountable for my thoughts and my feelings, and he helped me. Like it was a little weird. It was a little weird to me because I'm used to, seeing, having a woman,
Mm-hmm.
and this was, no shade to anybody, okay, but he
Mm-hmm.
was a white male, and so he was definitely different. Not somebody I would probably hang out with, but he
Mm-hmm.
helped me become accountable and address my issues because I am an overachiever when it comes to my work, when it comes to employment. Like I will 110% be over there and not be, if I'm going through so much at home, I try to stay there, you know what I mean? And if I'm
Mm-hmm.
not careful, you know what I mean, I'll stay at work, and then my home life will, go in shambles. And so he through all of that, I realized I was doing the same pattern like I always do. That's just my go-to, to get away from the
Right.
stress or whatever. And so yeah, and I had to tell her, it's like, yeah, I mean, therapy is going to be something that I will turn to before I get a doctor script, before I choose to drink,
Mm-hmm.
before I
Mm-hmm.
or do drugs. That is my go-to. That's something that I need to do, and and that's something I will always do for the rest of my
Mm-hmm.
life, for as far as I need it. And so I'm just here to tell you all, therapy is a good thing. It helps administer so many different coping mechanisms and coping skills, but as well as trying to also bridge the gap with your family if you definitely needed, because I know at one point in time I needed someone to be the, in the middle of, me trying to bridge a relationship. So I needed someone to be, that wasn't biased, you know what I mean, that didn't
Right.
know us,
Right.
you know what I mean. And
Right.
so that's actually a really good thing. And then you can fire the therapist and get a new one. You know what I mean? You don't
That's
have
right.
to stick
That's
to the
right.
one that they give
Yeah.
you. Or, you know what I mean?
That's
That's
true.
the
You,
beauty of
yeah.
that. And so,
Just like, yeah, that's true.
yes. And lastly, if you don't have insurance, there are definitely group therapy that is free to the public. And I wish that some churches do it, where they will
Mm-hmm.
they actually host these types of things in the home. Uh, they do
Yeah.
they do AA meetings, but they also do, grieving and loss, and also
Mm-hmm.
trauma. Now there's not very
Mm-hmm.
many, but they do them. I
Yeah.
wish churches did
Yeah.
that, but
You
your
know,
community
yeah.
does. So
Yeah. Um,
we're going with it.
gosh, I need to get a little notebook, a little notepad, and be like, okay, we gotta touch this a little bit more. We gotta touch this a little bit more. There's so many things.
So
You
that
said,
was
you said,
therapy.
mm-hmm.
Now, how important was it to hear your daughter say to you that she's proud of you for all the changes that you did make?
When I tell you, I cried.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot. It's a lot of tears. All of this stuff has been so emotional, but it was tears of relief because it's scary to make these changes. It is very difficult, and if you're not familiar with a lifestyle of regulating your ego and trading your ego for equity, which is something that one of my old business partners used to say a lot. If this is not something that's a regular part of your lifestyle, it's very hard. And I would guess, I'd make a strong guess that most people are not willing to do that.
Mm.
And so doing that and knowing that you're probably going to have to go alone and allow yourself to be ostracized for doing it. And then having my child and actually my children say to me, I see the changes. Some of them make me angry. Um, but I really appreciate what you did. And for them to say thank you, for them to say that they're proud of me and they're proud of all the decisions that I've made. They're proud of, the life that I really fought to create for them that we have now and that I still can, that we still continue to build together. I felt really relieved.
Mm.
And I don't think I don't think I really understood how much I actually needed that from them. So
Mm-hmm.
it was like a really big, like, I don't know, like a big thumbs up and great like confirmation that I'm on the right path.
Right.
So to have her, especially the oldest, to show her not necessarily her approval because I'm not seeking that, but for her to, I guess, show like this validation and for her to show that she appreciates the mom that I am today and she
Mm-hmm.
appreciates the struggle that we went through for me to get here.
I imagine that
Hearing
you
her.
had to. I imagine that you had to share some experiences in order for her to understand where it was coming from. Because I know you mentioned that, hey, it's not an excuse, but these are some of the
Mhm.
reasons. It's
Yep.
important. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Something with her being the oldest, there's actually a lot that I did not have to share with her because the older she got, the more she started to look back at her own history and her own family history as a whole. And then she would just say these realizations she came to on her own, she would share them with me. And I'd be like, yep, bingo, bingo, bingo. And then I'm like, look at she sitting here trying to diagnose me and stuff. She would just talk about some of her own observations with the
Mm.
dysfunction that she didn't choose to be born into or grow up into, be around.
Right.
And the older she got, the more she got to observe things for herself. And we would talk about these things. And I gotta admit, some things she was able to call out a lot faster than I was. Here's something that we have to, as women, stop saying to each other and to ourselves. At your big old age, you should know better. You should know better. Not true. Not true. There's a thing called arrested development, and trauma absolutely arrests your development. You can be a 60-year-old mother who got hurt because of some traumatic things that could have happened at you at 18, 25, whatever. When you are traumatized, your brain stays at that stage of life. And there's always a part of you, if not all of you, that will still function as that 18-year-old or 25-year-old that was traumatized there. And if you don't do the work to get past that, your development
Right.
is arrested and you're going to be a mother or a grandmother, a wife from that space as well.
Yeah.
So, like, it's like, who told you that just because you're 40, you should know better? You don't know better unless you know better.
Mm-hmm.
There's no age for that. And then if
Right.
in order to know better, you have to be willing to. You have
Mm.
first of all, you have to be made aware sometimes that you should know better. And then you got to be willing to do the work and willing to learn. And sometimes it may not be that easy for people if there's no resources around you. I don't,
Mm.
sometimes there may not be a lot of resources
Facts.
around you. Yes, y'all, I just pulled my wig. Sorry. Sometimes there may not be,
That's right.
enough resources, sometimes you got to be willing to get up out of that situation that you're in and for
Mm-hmm.
you to have the courage to do that,
Mm-hmm.
to get somewhere where you have to be willing to put yourself in a position to receive certain things. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, we had to talk about, we talk about a lot,
Good.
and I'm grateful. I'm incredibly grateful for the relationship that we have. And she told me some things that kind of made me mad, but I'm glad I know why. And then I was like, wait a minute, I can relate to this. I know that in her teenage years, Lawson, say hi and go away. Yes, this is real life mom stuff happening. Get out,
Uh-huh.
Merman. Can you get out of my sherbet? You can go have your own. Yes, take a bath first. Bye. I know it. You better don't forget it. Close the door. Close the door. Yeah, there's sherbet downstairs. Sorry.
That's okay. You're mothering.
Right. So, when I started having the kids in the mornings on the way to school, I started this, I want to say maybe 6 years ago, maybe seven, but 5 to 6 for sure is when we started getting very, having these morning rituals. And one of them is as we're getting ready for school and we're waiting on the bus or I'm driving them to school, we'll say affirmations and we'll talk about goals and dreams. And sometimes we'll get in a circle and meditate at night. There's just certain things that I just tried to make a part of our habits. And when I first started doing it, Michaela would get so angry, like so angry where she would just start crying and she just acted like she hated me. And for the first 2 years, like the first year I would just force her. Like I would like, you're not just gonna give me, you're gonna do this. I'm just force her to do it. And then I'm like, what, if you don't want to do it, then fine, forget you. I'll do it without you with your siblings and you just come in when you wanted to. So years later, what? You guys drink up all the soda. Listen, you need to go leave my room, close the door, don't come back. Don't come back. Bye-bye. There's some salsa water. Close my door. That's the one.
She said, that's the one.
Close it all the way. Thank you. Don't come back in here. So several years later, she told me that the reason why she hated it is because she had friends who their parents were alcoholics and other things. And again, we didn't have any of that. But either way it goes, there was still a form of abuse, emotional abuse for sure, and verbal. And she said that she would talk to some of her friends who had parents that just sucked. And you know what? I was put in that box. I was a parent who sucked. She said that they would make these apologies and try to do these grand gestures, just like an abuser, like like a bad boyfriend who I'm so sorry, I'm going to change. And then they would get their hopes up and be like really invested in that change just for it to just turn around and then be worse. And then I'm like, oh my God, I get it. That's the cycle of abuse. Now I understand why, because she was afraid that I'm making all these changes and it's going to be temporary. And for us, when I decided to make those changes, I never went back on it. But she didn't know that. She didn't know that. She's a child, and all she knows is there was a bad experience. So she was always waiting for that other shoe to drop. Is she going to cuss me out again? Is she going to go back to that mother who's so intolerant and just act like I'm such an inconvenience about things, or just loses patience with me? And I'm like, oh, I can understand that, because I've been in several abusive relationships and I've had so many, a boyfriend, a husband, and other people that all of a sudden they've turned over a new leaf just to get me comfortable. And then they would go back to the abuse and it'd be even worse. And oh my God, I have a child who's afraid I'm going to do that to her. Sobering.
Well, I'm glad that you kind of touched on relationships and how easy it is, because I can say that I have done plenty of entering into definitely toxic relationships because I never got rehabilitated as a child. I believe that if I had, access to, mental health care and
Absolutely.
understand that all of this was not my fault, I probably would have been under, and even, wait a minute, I should forgo as far as saying also know and get taught on what to look about strange behaviors. If I had learned that when I was a child, it probably would not have happened again later on in my adolescent years. And so I had to put that out there because those parents that might be listening today who are taking the necessary steps of trying to, rehabilitate a strange relationships, or is now going through somebody in their family or their child SA'd. So this is important for you as a parent to take accountability of your child's mental health, because I'm going to tell you what she said. This young lady said, you said that, we use the excuses, kids are resilient. No, we don't use that as an excuse. We take the accountability and we make sure that our children get rehabilitated, they get therapy, because this is going to show up later down the line.
Yep.
And even with therapy,
Absolutely.
it's going to show up. What's in a person always shows up. You can
Yes.
hide
Yes.
behind all of the feelings. Like, let's just put myself on Front Street. I was being molested by my
Mm,
teenage girl cousin, from the ages of 3 to 6. And so she wasn't violently hurting me. So understand this. She wasn't violently hurting me.
mm-hmm.
I got pleasure out of it. I thought it was, this is our own little secret, and no one has this secret. And so I kept that secret for a very long time. What I can tell you is that I exposed it, not even realizing I was exposing it, because I wasn't being hurt. And so when that stopped, when that abuse stopped, I was having pains that I couldn't understand, that I couldn't explain, and I didn't even know how to
Mm,
articulate. So if I went through that, and then how devastating it was, I'm now going into relationships looking for that same sensation, and I can't get it, so I'm going on to the next. And I'm being truthful. Like, I didn't realize that it went all the way back from when I was first molested. And then, and imagine if I would have gotten rehabilitated. Imagine
yep.
if I would have understood what strange behaviors looks like. I would have been in such a better position to be able to fend for myself. And that's really what the bottom line is here, is that we are training our
Yes.
kids in the way that they should go, so they know how to handle certain situations.
Yep.
This
Yeah.
has nothing to do with the topic, but I just saw a post where a mother was training her toddler to not speak to
Mm-hmm.
strangers. So she paid some teenagers to,
I just
I know
saw
you
that.
probably saw
Yeah.
it. They trained
Uh-huh.
her, you paid them to try to get her to come with them. And she just stayed as still as possible. And did not budge, did not move. I was so proud of her, and so proud of the mother that took accountability for her child. Accountability that doesn't have to take place first. You know what I mean? Something doesn't have to be so
Mm-hmm.
major that you have to start taking accountability for past mistakes. Accountability starts right
Mm-hmm.
now. I don't know if you could agree,
That's
but
right.
you
I
know.
wholeheartedly.
So
You know, mhm.
go ahead, please.
I was dating someone for the past 5 years, and unfortunately, and very fortunately, we went our separate ways the beginning of this year. There were several points of just discord, and that was a sense of discord in the way that we choose to raise our children. I have four,
Hmm.
he has two. And for the majority of the relationship, I had all six of our kids the majority of the time, because of being a child that was, I feel, neglected and left open to a lot of abuse. I am perhaps hyper vigilant. I don't make any mistake. I don't make any apology for that, though, because I'm in the world. I'm all over the world, and I see all kinds of things. I understand.
Okay,
I'm very
one
acutely aware.
second. One
Uh-oh.
second.
Mhm.
Can we just go back and say what you? Yeah, because for some reason it went out.
Okay. Uh-oh, okay. So I was
Sorry.
saying that um, he probably would call me very hyper vigilant as a parent. I make no apologies about that because of what I've seen and what I experienced. That you
Hmm.
wouldn't think that a preacher's daughter or a bishop's daughter and all that would experience. And also because of my career in aviation, I'm literally all over the world, and I'm very acutely aware of the dangers that are out there, even in your
Hmm.
own home with children. You see so much, and you have to turn in so much that you see as well. So one thing that I do with my children, and I had his two children as well, was emergency preparedness. And like that mother did with the child, I want my children to be prepared for any circumstance in life, including that. And he would get very annoyed with me when I would include his children in those conversations. When you're in my house, do you know the closest exits? Do you know what to do if this happens? If
Basic.
they got all the, if a fire happens, during the winter, and when you guys got all these cords, it could happen. If me and your father are out doing a concert and you guys are home alone, just what if a guy approaches you, girls, what do you, all of that. And we had to go our separate ways because, listen, if you're not going to agree with me, teaching our children, that was one of many things. And you guys can go listen, go find Darling Nikki, and you can hear all about all those stories, and get and just learn a lot, learn the signs from all the stuff I went through. But the point is, having those conversations with your children is vital. We have a duty. We have a duty to protect and to defend. We also had to have a duty to um, to prepare our children
That's
for
right.
life circumstances, even now
That's
as a
right.
child. I mean, like the old people say, this world gets wickeder and wiser. It's true. It's true.
Mhm.
Don't,
Mhm.
how dare you be so naive as to think that, oh, it won't happen to me in my house. You're the first ones that it happens to all the time, because you're so naive and unprepared. And these predators look for people
Mhm.
like that, have that mindset, who say the things that he would say to me. You're just so paranoid. You always want to panic about everything, which it's not. Panic and preparation are two different things,
That's right.
first of all. So the people that have that naive mindset, you're usually the ones that fall, prey to these type of calamities, because you're not prepared for it. Another thing that I want to say about that is, you're right. When it comes to the abuse that you have, if your parents don't speak up for you and do not make that right, any trauma that you have, you can only bear it for so long, and
That's right.
it's not up to you when it's going to finally come. When them chickens finally come home to roost, you don't get to control when that happens, but it's going to happen.
That's gonna happen.
Like, everything has to be reckoned with. Everything
Mhm.
has to be righted and reckoned with at some point. It's going to come to the surface. And so, can you imagine being a mother who never spoke up for your child, who didn't listen, who didn't protect, or who didn't go back and fight for your child? And then that
Mhm.
child grows up and it finally hits them, and now they want nothing to do with you anymore, because they're going to remember, it's going to come to them at some point. You did not fight for me. You did not protect me. You did not, you didn't prevent this. And you also didn't do anything to right this wrong.
Right. Wow. There's a whole lot to unpack. Because I can tell you stories. I can go on and on about different experiences, but oh man, for the lack of time, I think what I will say is that we need to do a better job when we see children, not our own, just children in general. Even children, even our children, when they start to
Hmm.
behave in a way that is appalling, or you have to take a look back, like where's that coming from, or
Mm,
yeah, it's definitely due to some drama. It's or some trauma they have experienced at a young age, and now it's coming out, and you know, um, I, we have some great teachers out there that are teaching our kids
yeah.
that can pick up and zone in on things like that. And we also have some ignorance, you know, with our teachers who, hey, I'm just here to teach. I'm not here to be, I'm not here to be a therapist. That's not what I'm here for. And so I think that they would get a better response with a different approach, but that's just my opinion, you know. But I think
Mm,
that there should be a level of interest on, hey, what's the root? What's the root? Because
right.
children are like sponges. They reenact
That's
the
right.
things that they see. Um,
Yes, they
they
do.
mimic what they see. They mimic bad behaviors. Especially when I see a little 4-year-old cussing like a sailor. Okay, his parents cuss like a sailor, or his guardian cusses like a sailor, because there's just no way he should know that many cuss words, even exist. And so parent accountability, training the
Yeah.
child in the way that
Yeah.
they should go, um, before anything happens. That accountability on the parents'
Mm,
part is always. If nothing more ever comes out of this episode in itself, we want to prevent things from having to happen, and also be aware of, hey, the way you're parenting. You know what I mean? When you're sitting there
right.
always pointing the finger at your child, what about you and you and you? You've got three more pointing back at you. Let's just be let's just be very clear that your children are
That's
only going to
right.
be as successful and as great as you are.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have shortcomings,
It's true.
just know that you're going to pass that along. And you don't want that. You want your children to be better than what we had it, how we had it. We
Yes.
want them to be so successful and so bright and so in tune with their surroundings that strange behavior they will pick up and move themselves out of there, out of the equation, knowing it's not going to benefit them from them staying. All of those things. And also know,
Mm-hmm.
bridge the safe gap that you shared how
Mm-hmm.
you're having conversations with your daughter on her own experiences that you didn't think you probably ever would reach, but you've created a safe space. And that's the other thing, we need to
Yes.
create safe spaces for our kids. Because if all they're going to hear
Mm-hmm.
us do and say is argue and yell and ridicule them, how can you ever expect them to come to you in the time
Mm-hmm.
of importance? They'll
Can
go
you
to
talk
somebody
about,
else before they go to you.
right? Can you talk about two things? If you were face to face with parents who don't want their children to do better, because
Hmm.
we have to acknowledge that there are many parents who don't, that are jealous of their kids. Thank you, honey. Bye 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 bye. That are jealous of their children. They don't want their kids to do better, or they have that attitude or mindset of, well, it was good enough for me, or I went through it, I survived it. You can too. Um,
Hmm.
what would you say to those parents?
That is just such a tough thing because, first of all, let's be candid. People, hey, I mean, I stated my own opinion of some girl who has Down syndrome, and she constantly doing these little posts. You know, I'm gonna beat my sister up, beat my friend up, whatever. And they think it's cute, they think it's funny. I'm just like, some certain things just
Mm,
shouldn't be encouraged. She's a child, you know what I mean? Um, and and that's and you can see the comments. Oh, she chooses violence every time. How awesome, you know what I mean? Like, ah, you know what I mean? So I had my own opinion on that, and man, did the comments start coming. You know what I mean? You need to worry about your own child, and you don't want them scrolling on Instagram or TikTok. You shouldn't have my kids are adults now, thank you. I mean, I do have one child, but that's not an adult, but still, like no, he doesn't. He's not on TikTok, or he's not on any social media really, and so. Yeah, I know better. I know better now. And it's my opinion. You know what I mean? Like, it's my opinion, but it's so hard to try to. First of all, I feel like you have to have a relationship with someone in order for you to really share your true heart about it. And then you
mhm,
can also, and that's what this platform is for, is to share the hard truths about parent accountability, and
absolutely.
hoping that stuff like this does help somebody realize, what, my daughter's been telling me all this time, or my son has been telling me all this time how I don't listen to him. You know what I mean? Maybe I need to fix me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think I don't think that there is a large group of parents that don't want to fix
Mhm,
themselves, or don't wish that things
mhm,
were better between, their kids. Sometimes their own inability to see themselves, right,
mhm,
is what trips them up. And so they don't see it. They don't see it because, this is what I know. Sometimes that's not even in their forefront to even, like, to admit, like, they're not thinking about that, they're just living. And so maybe if their living experiences were different and it wasn't so stressful, they would have time to think about that, you know what I mean? But I feel
mhm.
like it's a hard thing, and it's very hard to tell someone about that. I know that's probably why some teachers have a difficult time connecting with the parents, because the parents are hardly involved. You know,
Ooh,
so that's another thing. Like, the one I just heard my kids the other day, all three of my daughters and my sons talking about, man, they knew Miss Long. They knew Miss Long no matter where she was. Now, because I was also in the soccer community, I had to deal with, when we did large events. I
mhm,
spoke to the police department, get their involvement. I had to speak to, the fire department. And so when they got in trouble, what's funny? They knew me. Oh, you're Nettie's kid? They couldn't believe it.
oh, and
The
that makes a
encounters, all
big
right, listen,
difference.
listen, I know who you are. Why don't you go ahead and head home? You know what I mean? And let's not wait in the
Mhm,
parking lot.
mhm,
There's four black kids in a car in a parking lot of Rite Aid, and it's closed. Why were they there? Why were my kids there? Like, and so they, I know who you are. Of course, that one cop was trying to, yeah, hey, let me get your ID, let me get you all this. I'm like, "No, we're just chilling here. I mean, right here, just closed. We're in the middle of a parking lot. We're just chilling." They were like, "No, don't you got somewhere
Mhm.
to be?" And then the other guy was like, "I know who the parents are. I know who the mom is. Just let him go." And so he let him go. My
Mhm.
daughter got into a car accident. It was her fault.
Oh.
It was her fault. But I
Mm.
come up to the scene because they told me where they were. And I didn't know the police officer, but I knew the person that they hit. And that person, when they saw me, you know
My
what? We're
gosh.
all good. Everything's fine, and left. So if not for, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back here. I'm just saying that I became,
Do that.
a
Do
pillar
that.
in the community, and
Mhm.
try to also be, present in their life in everything that they do, not just the sports parent, and you don't see them at
Mhm.
the education part of it. I was everywhere, and
Mhm.
so I knew the teachers. They were just talking upstairs today about how the security officer at the schools would know, hey, do I need to call your mom because I got her on speed dial? Those were things that are so important in your childhood development, because look, they're talking about it right now, and they're 24 years old. Talking to my nephew who goes to the school now and who knows the same security officer who's still there. So all I'm saying is that in order for you to kind of beat how the world beats up on our kids and how they'll trick them,
Mhm.
how they'll abuse them and spit them out, um,
Mm.
there's lessons to be had with them, so that they an education, because the friends that you were friends with in elementary ain't gonna be your friends when you get to high school. Everybody switches up, or everybody that you're gonna graduate with,
Right.
you ain't never gonna see them again. So what's important
It's a
is you get your education and don't be worried about the rah rah and being the best friends here, or being worried about who's talking about me here, and then be all upset because people change up. I'm sorry. Why are we
Yep.
here?
You got to put you. That's because like there are parents and kids that need to hear all of that.
Right. You
That's
asked
right.
the
Teaching our
question.
kids
You
to make
asked
the
the
main
question.
thing the
How do you?
main thing. Yeah.
Yes. I
Yeah.
think it's a hard thing. Like I said. Um.
Mhm.
How would you address somebody? I hate. You know what I hate? I hate being in the parking lot
Mhm.
and I hear the nonsense with the way that the parent will talk to the child, and the child is two. When you're yelling at him like, "Come on, keep up." He's two. Where's the stroller?
Oh God.
Right.
Woo! Um, I had some firsthand. I talk about that. Darling Nikki, the character, she talks about some of those experiences as well. And I go
Mm,
back into, of course, my own history, but I do it through that
mm.
character about some really early defining moments and
I'm gonna
having
look that
some of
up.
those moments. Yeah. And the series that you're watching, it's chapter by chapter, it's getting taken down from there and going on Darling Nikki's TikTok and get kind of
Nice.
cleaned up and all
Okay.
that. Um, but I know exactly what you're talking about. The type of parenting where it's almost like it's such an inconvenience, and you can see it in the way that they talk to their child, and it's so unrealistic, and it's very ignorant in the literal sense. Like, I'm not coming for you. I'm just saying what it is. Ignorant means unlearned. It's
Yeah.
very ignorant to expect a 2-year-old to function like they're 10.
Mm.
And I think that's because of going into parenthood unprepared, which a lot of us did it. A lot of us did it, and
Yeah.
and then also, taking out some of your own frustrations of the responsibility and everything else on that child. Not their fault, not okay.
Mm. For sure.
And kids don't forget that. They don't forget the feeling of and they become kind of apologetic
Mm.
and will even sometimes think there's something wrong with them. Like, my parents don't want me. Let me try to see what I can do to make this easier for them. The burden should not be on them
That shouldn't.
to make it easier for you to parent them. No,
That's true.
not at all. Um,
That's
what would
good.
I say to a parent that's in that type of mindset?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure.
That's
Personally,
hard.
I am still dealing
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm still dealing with a lot of anger and resentment myself from
Mm.
being parented that type of way. From having one parent who was like that was intolerant, narcissistic, controlling,
Mm.
and then having the other parent that was just an enabler.
Mm.
So a lot of what I would say, I got to be honest, it would be just really, it'd be truthful, but it'd be very, very just, it would be violent. It'd be very violent in your face with it. And just, like just basically ripping you every single way you rip me. I just would rip you right back. Or if you were that person that ripped another child, I'd be the one. Like if I were the judge in that courtroom and you had to come before me, I'm gonna throw the book at you. There's just no grace in me right now when it comes to
Mm.
that. Um, and that's just where I'm at. Maybe that'll change. If someone asks me that question 5 years from now, I don't know. Um, I
I,
think
I,
I would just, yeah. I think the only thing that I have the capacity to do is really not to deal with that parent, but to just advocate for that child very hard. I
mm-hmm,
would I would just speak up for the child. I would do everything I can to try to protect and help that child. And
mm,
I don't think I would have much to say to the parent.
mm.
Um, uh,
It's hard because
so
the last thing you want to do is have to throw hands because somebody can't handle hard truths. You know, I think um, I think it's always I always believe that there's some sort of safety in telling the truth, but you got to know when. You got to get your cues from when. You know. Whew. So I believe
yeah.
I've been a situation happened some time ago. We're talking like I don't know, maybe 20 years ago,
Hmm.
um, and I was just nicely, interjecting like, well, I don't know why he's, running rampant right now. But was it something that he might have ate? Was it any? Did he have some sort of sugar? Or you're like, yeah, I mean, he just ate, yeah, okay. Well, maybe that could be why. So, um, anyhow, but yeah, I mean that's the gist of it.
Yeah.
I just think that if people would just share this episode, this is gonna be maybe life changing for somebody listening in. I
Oh
think
yeah.
that it's important just to self reflect, and that's one of the biggest things in the last 3 years that I've been doing this is making sure that I'm self
Mm,
reflecting, and when I hear something new, just to kind of like, uh, get some clarity on it, and work things out, work through some of the things that I hear, and then because I don't understand everything. I'm not a therapist. I'm not licensed
right.
anything. This is just, hey,
Right.
we have experiences, and I think the world needs to know them. I didn't have anybody
Hmm.
in my corner to help me. Um, you know, this this motherhood, this motherhood. I feel like me going to the church that I went to, I got a sense of knowing what motherhood was supposed to be. Our pastor, our late
Hmm.
pastor at the time, was doing a series on motherhood, and so we're
Mm,
talking like in my early 20s when I decided that I was going to be
mm.
gun ho for the Lord, and you know, um, quit all my relationships, and just
Yeah.
try to do this faith-based life. And I really believe that where you go to church, your life depends on where you go to church. I truly believe that. um because we could talk about church hurt, right? um
Yeah. Mm.
we could definitely go
Yeah.
there, and I can tell you that the church that I went to received me well. I have been at
That's
churches
beautiful.
I have been at churches where I was not received because I was a single mother. Um, uh, you
Mm,
know, women were very threatened. I felt that. Um,
mhm,
uh, it was frowned upon being single, and
mm,
having children out of wedlock. So I've been in, of course you don't stay. I didn't stay until I found the right church, but
mhm,
um, it's out there. What I can tell you that what hurt me in the church that I was going to was just seeing how leadership treated people. Um, but God covered me because I don't think I would have been able to um con- I don't think I would have
yeah,
been able to continue working there or being there, and then I would have had a lot of fleshly things to say. But God covered
I
me.
get
He
it.
covered me. He got me out of there. But it wasn't a personal attack on me. It was just some of the things that I had witnessed. And we
Mhm,
just need, as a church, you guys need to do a better job with your leaders, holding them accountable, because they're out here hurting
Whew.
your flock. They're hurting your flock, and that makes
Yo.
you a parent. You're the spiritual mother, spiritual father to a lot to your congregants. There's some parent accountability on your part, and so that's just my 2 pennies on
Yep.
that.
Addicted to Monsters. Addicted to Monsters, chapter 3 talks about some things that you delved into about being a preacher's daughter, about
Hmm.
being essayed by a minister in the church.
His assistant pastor.
There are so
Hmm.
many. Yep.
Hmm.
And for me, it was the minister of music at that church. And he was living in
Right.
our home as well.
Oh,
Um,
right.
and I don't know if there are any associations for preacher's daughters. If
We
so,
need to
then
start
hit
one.
me up. Yeah, okay. If not, then yes, let's start one, because
We
there's
can,
so much to talk about.
yeah.
There's so much to discuss. Hey, you guys, get out of my room. Why do you guys keep coming back in here?
If you guys are
Okay,
just tuning in,
escort
we
him out.
are on They Took My Choice Away platform, and we are talking about parent accountability, episode 3.
Lock my door.
And we, as you can see, we don't stop mothering no matter what we're doing. So,
Not at all. Lock the door.
and we just got done talking about the importance of parent accountability, to make sure that we parent accountability doesn't just have things have to happen in order for you to be accountable. You want to start today, start now, and prepping our kids to being trained in the way that they should go. We talked about the importance of self-reflecting. You know what I mean? We need to self-reflect on our parenting. We need to be open to hear what our children have to say about us, their what they think of us. I think that we also talked about how important it is to have a shared space, a safe space for them to be able to come and talk to you. And so, if you haven't created one, I don't think there's ever it's too late, to start. But also know
Mm-hmm.
that with creating a safe space, you have to be willing to allow them to talk, and that's not the safe space where you go in and say, well, I don't agree with you. You have to sort out your differences and figure out your happy medium. If you wanted to wrap this episode up with your thoughts on today's
Mm-hmm.
episode, what would that be to our viewers? What would you end us with? What cliff note? Because you're gonna be
Let's
back.
see.
I just know it.
Right. It's like
You're
it's
gonna
so many
evolve into
avenues to
something
go with
else, and I'm gonna
so
have to
many.
have you back on.
Right. I'm just thinking about all of our conversations outside of this. My gosh. If you are a parent, I would say if you're a parent on the wrong side of history, if
Mhm.
you don't want to change, and if you want to just feel like you're right, and that because you're the adult, you're right, and that everybody should come to you and all that, and you're stuck in your ego, if you want to remain there, any excuse will do. There's always an excuse to refuse to evolve. There's always an excuse. Just be willing to accept that there are consequences. There are long-term and lifelong
Ooh.
consequences for
Oh
whatever
God.
decisions you make regarding your family. And just like the Bible says, everything that you sow, you will reap. So I would urge you to consider that, and to be willing to drop that ego for equity and do the work to cultivate the type of relationship and family that you think that you deserve, and that the people that you're supposed to love the most deserve. Your family is supposed to get the best of you, not the rest of you.
Woo.
If you are a parent that is on the right side, and if you had to do a lot of work to be on the right side of history, I commend you. I understand it. And I thank you. If you are a child that has experienced parental abuse, um, a lot of a lot of children that experience parental abuse, it's like you go one way or another. You become a people pleaser, or you become a battle axe. And I understand both, because I deal with being on both sides of that all the time, depending on who I'm dealing with. Um, I first of all, I would encourage everyone to go to therapy. Therapy is for everyone. Get
Mhm.
those mental health checkups, talk to a professional. It can only help no matter what. It's always going to help. It's going to help your relationship with yourself, first of all, and then it's going to transform your relationships with everybody else consequently. And it's going to help you unpack things. Your own life. Just it's a great path to be on, to have a therapist and a coach. Anything that you want to be successful in life with, it requires coaching. You can't take yourself somewhere you have not been, period. So, and wherever you're trying to go, you need a guide map to get there. So if you're a child that has experienced parental abuse like we have, that has experienced SA like we have, I would say to that today's a great day to stop blaming yourself,
Mm.
and today's a great day to honor yourself and put yourself first and take good care of yourself. Set those strong boundaries and stand on business for the rest of your life, and let the chips fall where they may. You are in control of your life. You have all the power and all the control. So take it back now. If you need help, there are so many resources. There are many resources. And if you need to be pointed in the right direction, you can inbox one of us and we'd be happy to
Mhm.
help with some of that. If you know someone, if you were fortunate to, grow up in an environment, in a family that was healthy, that was loving, all that stuff, and you didn't experience that, it's normal that you cannot relate to it. However, have some grace and have some support. Don't blame someone that you know. If someone comes to you, especially a child, and says they're experiencing abuse, you have a duty. You have a duty to do something. If it's a child, speak up for that child. It doesn't matter who the perpetrator or the accused perpetrator is. The one that is the most important, no matter what, is not the person that you think, oh, he's a good man, there's no way he could do this. Oh, he's a pastor, he's a whatever. Those are usually the worst monsters, okay? The ones that you can't make out, okay? Which is why that series Addicted to Monsters had to come out. You have a duty because now you know. And the blood is on your hands if you are aware of abuse and you do nothing. I'm not saying put yourself in harm's way. You can say something, you can tell someone, you can go to the proper authorities. You don't have to be the authority, find one. Be a resource in the safest way possible. Of course, be wise, but do something. But one thing that you should never, ever, ever do is blame the victim, period. Because now you're perpetuating that abuse.
That's right.
And with that, I would say good night.
Wow. So of course you brought up people pleasing. That'll have to be another episode, I suppose, because I'm all about
Girl.
that. That's in me. That's very
Yeah.
hard to undo.
Yeah,
Um,
it
so
is.
yeah, we already got our next episode.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, along with all the other episodes we're about to do. Listen,
Yeah.
Nicole D. Lawson, she's just amazing. Thank you for your insight. Thank you for your
Man, so are
input.
you.
You had so much to give to the people today. Thank you for just your willingness. I'm honored. Like I said in the beginning, you impacted my life. There's so many things that so I can relate to just about everything about you.
Mhm.
I love just like I was saying earlier today, like once you've touched this platform, I'm a fan
Yeah.
for life. So I'm supporting you. I post your stuff. Like I'm gonna be a supporter for life. And so I appreciate you. Thank you for the time. I know you are a busy woman. And you continue
Man.
to, oh man, just follow her and her TikTok. She's giving you the whole lowdown scoop about her life. So I know that if it's relative to me, it'll be relative to you. And she breaks it down. Like I'm almost encouraged to do it myself. But
Girl, do it.
girl,
Risa Tisa
addicted
did
to
it.
monsters. What'd you say?
Risa Tisa did it, and I think that really encouraged. And I say
It
that
did.
because hers went viral, and it did so many great things and sparked so many great conversations. We've
It
been
did.
telling our stories way before she did, so let's
That's
let's put that out there. We've been doing it way before she did, so this ain't no bandwagon stuff.
I
But
just
I
love
think
how
that
you're
it's
breaking
a
it
great
down
example.
though.
Mhm.
I love how you're breaking it
Mhm.
down. And so I just want to make
Yeah.
awareness of it. Girl, check her out. She's got her stories out. She's dropping them daily. Like, you're getting it fresh off the press. That's like the best thing I could it's the best when you first get in the
Thank
gut.
you so much.
Oh God, you're welcome. It's really an honor, a pleasure. All right, guys, that
Yeah.
concludes our episode. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sharing. And encourage her because she's doing what she's supposed to be doing. She got this in the bag. All right, just stay online.
Man.